Hey everyone, it is Tanya. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new here. Today I am back with another speed build using the new Enchanted by Nature expansion pack, which is now out. Let me know what you're thinking of it if you did decide to pick it up. And I am creating a family home for a family of fairies. I've posted a few speed builds on the channel already using this pack, and I've had a ton of suggestions to build something that was a little bit on the bigger side, at least like not a very small house. That was for a family, and so I decided that's what we would do here today. And you might recognize the beginning parts of this as I did start this build over on Twitch. If you didn't know, I do occasionally stream on twitch.tv/Gryphi, and we hang out and do some real-time building, and most of those builds end up here on YouTube at some point or another, so you might recognize it from there. And if not, and you'd like to join in the future, there's a link in the description if you would like to follow over on Twitch. It's absolutely free to watch, and it's always a lot of fun. But anyway, I really wanted to have a curved roof on this build, go for a very like whimsical vibe. And at first I was thinking I was going to have this sort of shingle on the home, and I do really like this new shingle. However, I do end up changing it a little bit later to be a green roof, which I thought was really fun, so you'll see that in a little while. But if you do like this build and you'd like to download it for yourself, it will be available right now on the Sims 4 gallery. You can find it under my EA ID, which is Gryphi, Gryphi. You could also find it under the hashtag Gryphi, and that information will be in the description down below as well. And if you haven't already, if you're thinking about picking up the Enchanted by Nature expansion pack, please consider using my code Gryphi at checkout. You just enter it when making a purchase on the EA app, and it doesn't cost you anything extra, but it does support me as a creator. So thank you so much for considering, and thanks to EA for sponsoring this portion of the video. So at this point, the shape is starting to come together, and when I say this took a very long time, I really mean it. I bulldozed this lot, I think 4 or 5 times on stream before we got to this version of the build. And sometimes that's just what happens. There's a lot of builds that never make their way to the channel because they're just not working out the way I want them to and get bulldozed so many times. But luckily I got to something that I really enjoyed in the end, and this is the process. So in the front here, I was originally thinking it'd be kind of fun to have this curved room to be sort of a greenhouse. I don't end up keeping that in the end, but I do keep the curved portion. It ends up being part of the front porch, which I think is really pretty. It's an interesting detail on the outside, and something I haven't really done before. And as you can see here, I'm starting to play around with the colors on the outside, the different roof textures, and right now the house is blue. And this is a siding that came with Enchanted by Nature, which I've barely used yet because I find it really difficult to use. I just changed it to a different one, but the like sort of dragon scale looking one, which we do end up using in the end on part of the build in a reddish pink swatch. And it's really fun. It's just very difficult for me to use. I think it's just, I don't know, I think maybe the pattern is really busy. I'm not sure what it is about it, but I just thought it was a little bit difficult. But I was glad that I was able to use it here, and you can see me now playing around with the grass roof. And I do end up keeping it in this really bright green swatch. I thought it was really fun. So just adding the roof trim on there, and I should be getting rid of some of the columns on the corners as well at some point. And oh my gosh, the new flower box that you can hang under windows that has like little bird houses or fairy houses on it is so pretty. I also love all of the wisteria in this pack, and so I made sure to cover a lot of this build in that. I also tried using the glass walls in the front here, and I just wasn't liking how they were looking. I tried a bunch of different windows, I tried the glass walls and a few different swatches, and it just wasn't what I wanted it to look like. But I'm excited to do some building in the future using the new glass walls, both from this pack and the base game ones that were added. I feel like they're going to be really fun, especially in some more modern builds. So hopefully some stuff like that will be on the channel sometime soon. I have a few more fairy ideas, but I think we're probably going to wind down on it a little bit sometime soon. So that's not all that's on the channel, especially because I have so many different ideas, but some of them involve multiple occults being combined together. So if you're into the occult builds, they shouldn't be going anywhere. I just have some other ideas as well. Anyway, here I decided to extend the upstairs because I really wanted to make sure there was plenty of room in this house, because I did want it to be a family home, but I didn't want it to look massive on the outside. So I was trying to make that balance between it looking like a cute small fairy home, but also having plenty of room. And this does end up being a 2-bedroom house. You could probably make it more than 2 bedrooms if you wanted to make the room smaller or add another bump out. This lot is fairly spacious. But I do end up having 2 bedrooms upstairs, and I was imagining there are parents. They also have 2 kids that share a room, and then there is a newborn as well. So I have a bassinet in the parents' room, or maybe they're expecting a baby and it hasn't been born yet. I'm not sure. But that's kind of how I set up the space, and I think it ends up being really cute. I love how both of the rooms came out, and it was really nice finally getting to use some cottage living in combination with this pack, because I think it works so nicely together. I used a few wallpapers from that pack, both downstairs and upstairs in one of the kids' rooms. And of course, I heavily used a lot of the new items. I feel like every fairy build I've done so far, with the exception of the apartment I posted, uses the new kitchen set. And every time I use it, I just get a little annoyed about the seams between each piece. And I don't know if that was intentional or something they ever plan on fixing, but it does bother me. And so it's probably not going to be a kitchen set I use very often past when I make these builds. Then again, it's not like a very versatile set anyway. It's a very specific looking kitchen set, and it's really pretty. I just wish it didn't have those seams. Anyway, part of the landscaping has come together now. I love these debug mushrooms that I put here. I end up putting them in a couple of different places on the lot, and I just think they're really pretty. There's also a new shelf object that looks similar in color to those mushrooms that I ended up putting on the outside of the build a little bit later on, just to add some more color. And I liked the idea of some of the mushrooms growing off of the house, so you'll see that. And here I am placing down a bench, and then I really wanted to add a rug out here that kind of mimicked the shape. And at first I placed down this one from Life and Death. The shape is perfect, it's just not the vibe I wanted. And then I realized I wanted to use the gnome welcome mat, and that rug had to go. But I did find this rock rug that looks like it's not a rug, it's just rocks. That's from Journey to Batu, I'm pretty sure, and I thought that that looked perfect there, so placed that down, and I thought that that really helped the front porch. I kept it pretty empty. You could definitely add some more items out there. That way, it being empty allows you to customize it for what your Sims' interests are. Maybe you want to put an easel out there, or just like a place to relax. I feel like maybe some rocking chairs would be nice. There's some options. And then here I'm starting to work on the terrain paint, and I will erase this and come back and fix it a few different times. And I did a few times before you just saw now, because I was just very unsure how I wanted it to look. I liked the idea of it being kind of windy around the side of the build, but I also knew I wanted to use some space over there, so it takes a while to figure it out. But here I am placing down some more mushrooms. I have that one coming out of the roof, and then I have some more tucked over here, and there will be some on the other side of the build as well. And I'm also grabbing some of these new pink flowers that came in debug as well. I think they are so pretty, and they looked nice with the hydrangeas that I already had all over the lot. And then I'm picking out a couple of trees. Once again, I love these new trees, specifically the green ones. I just think the shape of them is really interesting. And I also used some debug rock walls here as well to kind of frame in the side yard. I just thought it looked a little bit less busy and more substantial than the fences that came with this pack that are actual fences. So placing that down here and then trying to figure out if I want to use that pink tree or not. I didn't end up keeping it in the end, but I tried a few different times. And this is where I am redrawing that terrain paint, because I did want to include the swing set since I was imagining there were kids living here. And it's the most beautiful swing set we have in the game by far, so I needed to have that in here. And then we are starting to work on the floor plan. When you walk in, you're in a small entryway, and then the living room is off to the right. And then on the left is going to be where our dining space is. And then in the back, there is a kitchen and a small half bath on the bottom floor. I feel like I don't very often add half bathrooms, or like a bathroom that's just a toilet and a sink in my builds, because they tend to be on the smaller side, and I feel like you probably want a shower in all of your bathrooms so your Sims can get ready in the morning. But there was enough space here, and I was able to include 2 bathrooms upstairs that have everything you would need. So I figured just having an extra toilet and sink downstairs would be nice, and pretty realistic to a lot of homes as well. So here you can see sort of how the layout is going to work. I am just adding a little bathroom at the end of the hall here, which is going to be the hall bathroom for the kids. And then there is an ensuite for the primary as well. And right now I just have a crib in the bathroom, or not in the bathroom, in the primary bedroom. And I will swap that out for a bassinet once I get to actually decorating that room, because I decided I should use a newborn bed instead, because I have only really used the crib other than the double bed. Because I really like the crib, and I am still excited at the idea of having cribs in the game ever since we got the infant update, which is a while ago now. It's just we don't have a lot of actual cribs in the game, so I tend to, when I'm decorating a space for a small child, want it to be for an infant instead of a toddler or a newborn. So I decided to swap it out this time. But here I am working on the dining room, and this is where that wallpaper from the Cottage Living pack comes into play. And I really, really wanted to try and use this one that has the red on the bottom, and I just couldn't make it work, but I really want to at some point in the future. It's very Christmassy, I feel. That's probably why I struggled with it, but I have built things before that heavily use green and red, and I didn't feel like they felt that way, so maybe at some point in the future I will be able to figure it out. But I do end up using this wallpaper just in a swatch where the bottom is a different color, so I will be swapping that out here shortly. I also made this little like passway into the kitchen. I thought that that could be cute for, bringing food to the dining area, and I am starting to work on some of the decorations over here before I change the wallpaper color. I did use a cabinet piece over here as sort of a hutch, and I will be decorating that with all sorts of clutter. And I also changed the swatch of the chairs and the rug a bunch of different times, just trying to make that wallpaper work. But in the end, I think this color worked a little bit better, and the room starts coming together, and I really, really like how this came out. I think this is my favorite room out of the whole house, and it's the first one I decorate. It just took me a really, really long time to figure out how to mix everything together and I guess achieve the vibe I was going for in here, because I wanted it to feel kind of whimsical and fairy-esque, but I also wanted it to feel comfortable and like a cozy family home that felt a little bit realistic. I don't know if that makes sense or if it comes across. It was just everything I was trying wasn't quite working until I got to this point. But here is all of the clutter that I put on those shelves, and then I'm getting some curtains over this front window. I also ended up getting a standing piano in here, which I thought was really fun. That is something I associate with family homes, even though I didn't have one growing up. I did go to a daycare that had one, and I don't know, it just feels so cozy. Also, some of my cousins had pianos in their houses growing up, and I just thought it would be really cute to have like the fairies in here playing some music and hanging out as a family. Maybe the kids are sitting at the dining table doing their homework. And then I also used another one of these mushroom shelves. These are a couple of places in the build. I just think they're really cute. Sometimes I put clutter on them, sometimes I don't, because I just think it looks kind of fun to have the mushrooms coming out of the wall. And then over here, I just have a little side table for extra storage and a mirror above it by the front door. And in the actual entryway, I should be adding a place to hang up a coat. And then I think just like temperature controls, fire alarm, and a burglar alarm as well. It's a pretty simple entryway, but I think it's really pretty. I love the new doors and windows. The archways in here are gorgeous. I was really happy with those. And then over here, I do add just a little bit more clutter. I end up getting a couple of paintings from Eco Lifestyle to kind of tuck against the stairs and a small ottoman. And then we are heading on into the kitchen, where I once again got rid of the red that I was trying to use to begin with and end up going with this same tile in a different swatch that has some orange tones in it. It's mostly blue, but I thought that the orange was a nice nod to the red I was originally trying to use. And I tried to add red and pink in more subtle ways throughout the build, because I really wanted to try to use some of that, especially because that's what I used on the outside of the build. Because so far with the Fairies pack, I feel like I've more so leaned into the blues and purples and greens and not so much into like reds. So I wanted to try that today, and it was more difficult than I thought it was going to be, but I did use some of it. You can see I have this rug here, which I think I'm going to swap out for the one from Paranormal or Strangerville. I'm not sure which pack. But the one I have right now is actually from Businesses and Hobbies. And then I am also figuring out the curtains in here. Layering them on the windows was a little bit difficult because some of them don't fit the window sizes. And then this one did fit the window size, but it kind of collided or clipped with the faucet for the sink. So I didn't want to keep it that way. So I did swap that out and like scale a few different ones. And here I am just cluttering up the kitchen. I made sure to get plenty of storage for like utensils. There's lots of herbs hanging up. I have some of those cute apothecary items that came with the new pack. And of course, plenty of cutting boards. I can't build a kitchen without adding those unless I'm not using the pack they came in. Sometimes I'll get comments of, where are the cutting boards? And it's like, oh, I wasn't using Cool Kitchen in this because it's a limited pack build. This one's not, but that does occasionally happen. Like my early access builds that I posted of this pack, I didn't have access to anything but base game and Enchanted by Nature, so of course the cutting boards were not there. Anyway, over here I do add another small table. We have a bigger one in the dining space, but a two-seater in here I thought was a nice addition, and also getting a trash can and one of these like parenting boards from the Parenthood pack, so your Sims can like set curfew and all of that. But here I am finally heading on into the living room and trying to figure out what swatch of this couch I wanted to use. I started by like having the pinkish reddish swatch, but it felt like it didn't match the rest of the interior, even though I really wanted to use that swatch like the entire time. And so I ended up going with this one instead, which is like a green and sort of like teal or turquoise one. But I did bring in red through a couple of rocking chairs from Life and Death. And I also changed my mind too many times on which fireplace I wanted. I do end up going with the wood one in the end and recentering it in the space and just having a smaller TV cabinet on the other side, which is just a side table from the Laundry Day stuff pack. And I love this coffee table as well. I believe that one is from Courtyard Oasis, that kit, I think. And then I over here am just adding a couple of pieces of art to this gallery wall from Paranormal. And I thought about adding these herbs over here, and I think they're really pretty, but I end up putting them in the kitchen instead so that they're closer to the side door where you might actually go outside to maybe harvest some plants. I didn't actually add any planters outside, but your Sims can grow things directly in the ground, so I think that's fine. If you do want these Sims to be into gardening, you could also probably grab some of those new pots that came with this pack so you can grow houseplants. I believe I have one or two of those upstairs, or maybe they're in this room. They're in one of the rooms in the house. I know I placed a couple of them, but I didn't like highly focus on plants because yes, that's a huge part of being a fairy. Like your Sims are better with gardening, but maybe that's not the gameplay you want to focus on and you just want them to have pretty wings and be able to fly around. So I didn't highly focus on that, but I had such a blast decorating this space. I really like creating occult homes. I don't know why. It's just something I've always really enjoyed. I've posted a lot of like vampire things, mermaid things, spellcasters, werewolves, all of that over the years. I know I recently just posted a mermaid house like a week or two ago, and that was really fun. But anyway, this is our primary bedroom. I did lean into the reds in here. As you can see on the wallpaper, the wisteria on there is red. I also grabbed these beautiful red curtains from high school years, and I did just swap out the crib for a bassinet. Was very excited about that. I think the bassinet's really cute. And then I'm just decorating the bedside tables. I ended up getting some books, I believe a candle, a watch, just like some miscellaneous clutter that made sense to put on a bedside table. So just figuring that all out now. I did try to use a larger candle. It just didn't fit on the bedside table with the other items I wanted, so I didn't keep it. And then over here, I put a lantern that I don't think I even saw in my build and buy overview. I'm not sure if it was tagged wrong or something, but I don't recognize that lantern, but I thought it was really pretty, so I did place that down. And then the new standing mirror that came with this pack is gorgeous with the mushrooms, so I put that in here. And I also wanted to include like some diapers and stuff and a cute little light over by where I had the bassinet. But this is going to be the ensuite bathroom. I did use the new shower in here. I haven't used it a lot because I feel like it's a very specific, unique like design that's a little bit difficult to use in builds. But in this like creamy white swatch, I thought it worked okay in this space, and so I decided to include that in the primary bedroom's bathroom. But in this one, I wanted to make sure we included a tub, so that way once the baby is a little bit older and needs to be bathed, you have that option, or if you end up having a dog in this household, you have a tub that you can bathe them in. It's just very useful to have a tub. And I also tend to just put shower tub combos in most of my builds because that's the only kind of shower I've ever had in real life. I've never had like a standalone shower, so that's what I am used to. But anyway, this is our kids' room. I thought I was going to use these beds from Horse Ranch, but I actually ended up swapping it out for this one instead, which I believe is from Discovery University. And once I changed the swatch of the rug to this one with the deer on it, I was like, oh my gosh, these match beautifully. And I got really excited about the kids' room because I wasn't really sure how it was going to come together. I just knew I wanted to use this wallpaper from Cottage Living with the little bunnies and acorns and mushrooms on it. I just thought it was perfect, especially with a lot of the new items that have those same themes to them in Enchanted by Nature. So once I figured out the swatches, it just came together beautifully, and I love this kids' room. I don't know what the personalities necessarily are of these kids. I just wanted to go with the fairy theme and use a lot of the new items. So we do have the new dollhouse. There is a new toy box in here as well. And then I just tried to match it with some other items in the game that I thought worked nicely. So I have some items from Cottage Living, like the dresser and the bedside table. There's a bunch of toys in here, just everything a kid would want. I really love the new Freezer Bunny fairy plushie. It's really cute. But that is pretty much it for this build. We're just going to be finishing up some landscaping and then heading on into screenshots. I really hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. You can also subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more and click that bell to be notified when I upload. And a massive thank you to my YouTube members for your continued support. If you'd like to become a member yourself, you can click the join button below the video or the link in the description. Please enjoy the screenshots, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye everyone.